After more than 10 years, a notorious microtransaction system, Treasure Hunter, is being removed from RuneScape, one of the world's largest and longest running online role-playing games. Players are delighted. It took little more than a day for a poll proving the removal of the much maligned feature to exceed the goal of 100,000 votes. Yet there's another side to this story. For years, Jagex tried to supplement a fall in player count with increasingly aggressive treasure hunter promotions. But recently, microtransaction revenues have been falling. With in-game gambling legislation looming in the UK and the EU, there's little doubt that restoring integrity to the game to re-attract lapsed subscribers and potential new players is a financially rewarding move. Indeed, before launching the poll for the removal of Treasure Hunter, Jagex had undertaken a series of surveys and experiments into monetization. There's a reason the poll is yes only. Jagex had already calculated what the result would be. The poll simply provided marketing and publicity. To what extent, then, is the removal of Treasure Hunter down to players a result of the politicization of the gaming space, or is this all simply a managed transition? At the risk of triggering traumatic flashbacks amongst people from the RuneScape community, let's go back to the beginning. On February 28, 2012, what was known as Squeal of Fortune was added to the game. At first, this was a free daily activity, available to everyone. Free players got 1 spin a day, while members normally got 2 spins a day. Upon logging on, players would be greeted by Yelps, the NPC who ran Squeal of Fortune. Pressing Yelps would open the wheel interface, which players could spin to have a chance at winning an item from a selection of 13. On April 2, 2012, it became possible to buy more spins. Much of RuneScape's community were up in arms about this, the present author included. The game was never the same again. Though Jagex's profits increased because of the portion of the community that did pay to spin, the player base shrank rapidly, demoralised by the fact people could play to win. This was spearheaded by Gerhard, whose response to player feedback begged belief. In his words, "The team and I are saddened that some players are upset about free spins and some also don't like the ability to also purchase additional spins. However, the reality is 90% of our members are enjoying the Squeal of Fortune on a daily basis, and over 70% of our free players utilise the Squeal of Fortune too, making it some of the most widely appreciated content released to date. The majority of our players also continue to take advantage of the many free ways to earn extra spins, so it's certainly here to stay." His argument was widely seen to be highly cynical, and not only because he downplayed the enormous amount of negative feedback. By engagement, he meant players interacting with the free spins on Squeal of Fortune. Yet it was hard not to engage with them. You had to actively close it. It was easier to take the freebies, so people did. That did not mean that they liked the system. RuneScape was part of their lives, an online fantastic extension of their life. While it was still recognisable, it was hard to let that go. For many, however, Squeal increasingly made the game unrecognisable. Jagex knew this and acted quickly, again with a poll. This time gauging if players would be interested in what has come to be known as Old School RuneScape, a version of the game as it was in 2007, before the introduction of Squeal of Fortune and other controversial changes. This allowed them to retain some of the players who were aggrieved by the state of the main game. Over time, Old School RuneScape overtook RuneScape's player count. In August 2025, there was an average of more than 180k players logged into Old School RuneScape, and just 20k logged into RuneScape. To be fair, the player count on Old School RuneScape is slightly inflated due to the botting population. For those who don't know, a bot here refers to a character being run on a script. But the reason there is a noticeable bot operation on Old School RuneScape is because it is much more profitable to run bots to farm gold to sell to other players, but much less so on RuneScape, because there's more demand for in-game gold on Old School RuneScape. But even if the migration to Old School RuneScape has at times been overstated, the anti-microtransaction sentiment within the community was already very apparent. Squeal of Fortune was toast. The launch of Old School RuneScape could not save Yelps. The branding was far too toxic, and its resemblance to casino-like mechanics was far too brazen. In February 2014, just over 2 years after it had been introduced, Squeal of Fortune was retired. Yelps would later be incorporated into an in-game quest, the Mighty Fall, in which players have an opportunity to kill the goblin. Yet Jagex's embrace of casino-like gambling mechanics did not end with Squeal of Fortune. Yelps' premises would soon be taken over by Alice, the alluring hostess of Treasure Hunter. Though Treasure Hunter was considerably less jarring and obnoxious in its visual design than the Squeal, the gist was the same. Players would be presented with 5 chests from which to choose to get a prize. They could open a certain amount of chests for free a day and could buy keys to open more. As with Squeal of Fortune, they would be rewarded with desirable items. Players knew Jagex had in essence changed nothing. Many continued to complain or abandon the game. Others tried their best to ignore the casino mechanics. Yet others poured money into the chests. Some were enticed by special promotions to spend eye-watering sums. Appearing before the House of Commons Digital, Culture, Media and Sport Committee for the Immersive and Addictive Technologies Inquiry in September 2019, Jagex told the committee that players potentially could spend up to £1,000 a week or £5,000 a month on in-game purchases. Players who spent such sums have often been referred to as whales, as in other online gaming communities. A deadly cycle emerged, where Jagex would release ever more generous promotions to entice whales to splurge on Treasure Hunter, and this would increasingly put off players who disapproved of the gambling-like mechanism. Throughout the 11 years of Treasure Hunter's existence, there were numerous token gestures from Jagex to the community in response to player complaints. For example, Alice was removed in 2021 as part of a supposed effort to make Treasure Hunter more transparent. But for more than a decade, Jagex made it clear that they had no intention of removing Treasure Hunter, and many players regularly and loudly complained about the pushy, in-game advertising for the feature. Yet for how long could this be sustained? How long could an online game continually go against the wishes of the majority of its players, especially when there was mounting pressure from outside as well? The Digital, Culture, Media and Sport Committee expressed concern about how Treasure Hunter's loot box mechanism and random item purchasing had features similar to gambling, and recommended regulating them under the Gambling Act 2005. Though the department itself later ruled that it was not covered by the Act because the items obtained could only be used in the game, a year later the committee requested Jagex to provide evidence on loot boxes so as to inform upcoming UK legislation on such gaming mechanisms, which mirrored legislative moves of other European countries. The real question might actually be, why did Jagex keep banking on Treasure Hunter at all? Only, the answer is blindingly obvious. Money. Since Jagex was sold by its original creator, Andrew Gower, it has passed through the hands of 5 large-scale investors since 2012. The goal has been short-term profit. Long-term game health has not been a priority. But even during the Treasure Hunter era, players were able to establish certain limits on Jagex's exploitative business practices. For example, in 2023, when Jagex introduced a Battle Pass system to RuneScape, the community response was swift and organised. Players voiced their disapproval through Reddit, in-game protests, social media campaigns, and direct feedback on official forums. Prominent content creators and community figures amplified these concerns. Things got so noisy that gaming media and content creators from outside RuneScape started to get involved. The gaming community acted here as a highly effective consumer rights lobby. We pay, we say, as the mantra goes. Jagex was forced to abandon the Battle Pass and swore not to adopt any such measures again in future. Having come so far, we can see that Jagex's removal of Treasure Hunter can readily be understood as a managed change in monetization strategy. No doubt many at Jagex are genuinely looking forward to delivering a better gaming experience, and players will benefit immeasurably from this shift in direction. They will be able to enjoy a purer fantasy escape from the mundanities of reality going forward. But this purity of the escape is entirely in keeping with RuneScape's desirability as a gaming service. The hope, as Jagex have made clear, is that new players will find the game more attractive, and old players will return. Despite short-term reductions in revenue, the hope will be that this increases long-term profitability. But there's more to this than a reminder of what is a cliche of cultural criticism. Any fool can see that RuneScape exemplifies the basic operation of culture, namely, that it is desirable because it provides the experience of circumventing the social antagonisms of daily life, hereby providing players with a utopian-like experience of escape into another world. What is more important is how players were unified in being repetitively repulsed and seeking, with limited success, to repel the intrusion of the logic of capital into the logic of their gaming worlds. RuneScape is not alone in this. Protests over matters like this have been innumerable over the past decade. So far, they have remained disunified and lacking self-consciousness. But how long can this hold? If pay-to-win mechanics can make hundreds of thousands of gamers, many of whom are otherwise politically unmotivated or at odds with each other, into protesters against capitalist entrenchments, are the monetization practices behind games perhaps where a limit might be established against which a differing ordering of society might dimly shine on the horizon? Today, the digital utopianism of the 1990s and early 2000s seems like a distant memory. But games like RuneScape have a long history, shaped by the players, as they practically respond to, and even rally against, the material parameters established by the creators. These are enclosures where people extend themselves into collectivities that are at once imaginary, but also real insofar as they are imaginary. They contain within them an active, if fleeting, suspension of the logic of real life. This is nowhere more real than when gamers say, enough, no more, or, in RuneScape's case, riot in Falador, knowing full well they are likely to be ignored. They here act in the hope that one day things might be different.